So, let me share on this today that dress code is, let me just put it well. Proper and decent dress code is part of your service to God. Proper and decent dress code is part of your service to God. Listen, I did not say expensive dress code. That expensive dress code is part of your service to God. It's not about of cost. It's not a matter of cost. It's a matter of proper and decency. It's very critical. And especially for those that are serving on the altar, for those that are serving the purposes of God. And this I'm talking about church now. Dress code is something that is important in the workplace. If you're going to the workplace where you're working, you need to dress well. You need to dress properly. You need to have great attire so that this is part of your honor, because the way you dress shows people how to address you. So you dress properly, you dress well. It shows that you respect the kind of work that you're doing. And once again, it's not a matter of cost. It's a matter of proper and decent. So when you're hired or when you're employed somewhere, one of the things that happens when you walk into an interview panel is how you dress. Because when you dress, that's why people go to an interview panel dressed officially, depending on the kind of interview that they're going for. Others need to go probably with formal wear, or others go with informal wear, but that informal wear is proper and decent. Others are supposed to go there with casual dressing, or maybe semi-casual dressing, but it is proper and decent. So coming back to the church, and when you're serving the purposes of God, then there is an attire. There is attire that shows respect and honor regarding the work that God, the assignment that God has given you. If you're a preacher of the gospel, you're an intercessor, you're in praise and worship, you are in the choir, you are an elder in the church, or any kind of responsibility that is in the church, proper and decent dress code is part of the instructions that God gave unto the priests. He didn't just send the priest to go dressing anyhowly or dressing carelessly for as long as you go and perform priestly duties. He instructed them on how they should dress. Listen to this in Leviticus, and this is so wonderful. In Leviticus chapter 6, verse number 10, past chapter 10. It says, "And the priest shall put on his linen garment and his linen breeches." Breeches are like boxers, you see. And those boxers, if you look at the instruction that God gave Moses, the breeches or the boxers were supposed to be from the waist to the knees, which means that when one dresses to go before the Lord, anything above the knees is indecent and improper. Anything that is above your knees is indecent and improper. So it says, "And the priest shall put on his linen garment," Leviticus 6 verse 10, "and his linen breeches or boxes shall he put upon his flesh, and take up the ashes which the fire hath consumed with the burnt offering on the altar, and he shall put them beside the altar." And so he says that when one goes to the altar to serve God, that person, he or she, must consider the kind of dress code that is appropriate for the altar or for the service of God. And so one cannot serve with a miniskirt. It's God that instructed that. You cannot serve with any kind of thing that is above your knees. There are certain parts of your flesh that are not supposed to be exposed. Dress code must reveal two things, and this is the aspect of dress code as regards the garments that God instructed Moses to create and to make for Aaron. He said, number one, they shall be for glory, which means that the dress code that you put on must reflect the spiritual aspect of what you're doing. Glory is the spiritual aspect, is the magnifying of God, which means that your dress code reveals your spirituality. That's why when many people are deceived by the kingdom of darkness, they begin to go the direction of naked. They begin to have reduced clothing. When Satan or when the serpent beguiled Eve, and Adam and Eve ate of the forbidden fruit, the Bible says they realized their nakedness. The aspect of nakedness came when they encountered the serpent. And then the Bible says when they met God, or when God came to the Garden of Eden, he covered their nakedness, which means when someone begins to encounter God, he will begin, or she will begin, to consider their nakedness and cover them. Because the more one lives, the more one draws near to Jesus, the more they become conscious that they need to work on their clothing. They need to work on their nakedness. That's what the Bible says concerning the man at Gadara, the madman at Gadara, who was naked and alone and screaming and cutting himself and always dwelling by the tombs by himself. When Jesus delivered him, the Bible says when the men of the city came, they found him that was insane, mad. He was seated. The Bible says he was clothed, and in his right mind. The more you move close to Jesus, the more conscious you are with your dress code. The farther you move away from Jesus, the more you begin to be more revealing in your dress code. So the increase in nakedness is as a result of covenanting with the serpent. But now, when you move away from the serpent and now you have an encounter with God, now you begin to realize the opposite is even God. And I've talked about this. When God came to the Garden of Eden, what did he do? He clothed men. Man, of course, first of all, when he realized his sin, he sewed fig leaves to try and cover his nakedness. But then God slaughtered or killed a lamb. When God killed a lamb, he took the skin of that lamb and covered the nakedness of men. When Aaron caused the people to sin by constructing or building the molten calf, remember the golden calf? The golden calf. The Bible says when Moses came down from the mountain or from the hill where he was praying and spending time with God, he saw the people that they were naked, for Aaron had caused them to be naked to their shame, because they had moved into idolatry and they were naked because of their encounter with darkness. So the more you encounter darkness, the more you are revealing in your dress code. So watch that carefully.